last night a little bit. But this is a topic I was mulling over, man. I think it's important. There's a lot of talk about telling people how to get money, what to do, where to go, who to work for, not to work. The truth is, the overwhelming majority of us work for someone else. Yeah, I'll message you, Matt. The overwhelming majority, was it 85% of people work for someone else, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The truth is, many a days you wish as an entrepreneur you could work for someone else. This shit is inconvenient. It's convenient in terms of you can make a schedule. However, you are responsible for every single action that happens. If a sale goes wrong, even if you have salespeople, if people that provide the service, right, goes wrong, that's on you. The business, the taxes, the accounting, the administrative tasks, the printer paper, everything you have to account for. So I own a moving business, right? That piece of tape, God damn it, you better use that tape down to the brim. But when it's not yours, they don't care. It's more convenient to get a new roll than to lose that last little bit, because what happens when you roll it out, you get paper and not tape at the end, and now you got to kind of start over. It messes up your flow. But listen, as the owner, I don't give a damn. I stopped the guys one day. I said, that tape costs $3. One of my guys got smart. I'll send you $3. Love C, what's up? I'll send you $3. Okay. You lose a roll of tape a day. We move 6 days a week times 52 weeks. Can you give me that money? Right? So if you go 3 times 6 is 18 times 52. Are you willing to just give me that money now? Since it's so frivolous that you think losing tape is okay because it's only $3. Right? So there's pros and cons of everything. But what you don't get as an entrepreneur is days off. Period. You don't get days off doing this shit. You don't go on vacation doing this shit. Right? Let me show you guys this. Let me see if I can find it really quick, because this is what the life actually looks like. Let me see. Hold on. And this was funny, right? But this is the truth. And we've had back and forth. My wife, as the kids get older, they notice. Let me see if I can find it real quick, because this will paint the picture in a bright light, but a light nonetheless. Yeah, here it goes. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and tell a friend. Hit that like button right now if you can. That helps the channel the most. So this right here is a video that my oldest daughter sent me, right? And this is what she said. Point of view: you go out with your dad, but he owns a company. Right? It's lighthearted, The music playing. And so he gets a call every 5 minutes, right? And he ain't trying to do nothing wrong, right? She look, she happy, she understands it, but everybody doesn't understand all the time. It is not passive. Down south was good. It is not passive. The income that you get from being an entrepreneur when you provide a service or a product, it is not passive. Largely, you are always on. You are always doing something, right? Clients call. Hold on 1 second. Clients don't ever ask you if you're on vacation, right? They just want to understand how this got broken. Why did the price change? What is a binding estimate versus non-binding? All of a sudden, people don't understand English language, right? People remember what they want to remember. They look at us and say, how did this get scratched? Well, I have 40 pieces of furniture and 130 boxes, and we made it fit in one 26-foot truck that had to go from Texas to Kentucky. And those pieces unfortunately rub together. That's how it got scratched. Oftentimes when the UPS truck pulls up, everything's in a box for a reason, right? But nobody's understanding of the process, right? The common sense leaves because we've been told for so long the customer is always right. The customer is not always right, but the customer is always the customer. That's for damn sure. When you provide a service, the phrase, and no shade to the ladies, it's just the old cliche, I know a guy, matters so much. Word of mouth referrals, any type of service that you provide, that word of mouth matters so much. So you have to do a lot of weighing. Okay, do I push back on this client? But what if they have a voice? So me pushing back on this client, not giving a courtesy discount, means what to the other 30 people they may speak to in the community, in the apartment building, the apartment complex, so on and so forth, right? So you always thinking, you always going. It is restless, right? You're restless when you care. So everybody want to start a business and be out here by themselves, but I'm telling you, it does not go how you think it's going to go. You know, at least when you have an employer, right? Oftentimes you have benefits. You know, even the level of your taxes is situated for you. You know, you have allocated vacation days, right? You get overtime, et cetera, right? So like, look at this, for instance, when we talk about overtime, my guys that go out, right? They work all day. Commercial work often happens at night. So if you guys notice this, if you ever worked in a commercial building, right? The cleaners come in very early in the morning or very late in the evening, right? Well, moves often happen after hours as well. So now I have to charge additional in the evening because I know my guys are going to get into overtime by Saturday, right? But a client, we move their house for them and they like, hey, my office needs to move. Well, why is the rate $10 more when you move my house? It wasn't, right? And so how do you eloquently explain I have to make sure I cover the overtime costs needed and necessary for us to move you in the evening, right? Logistics, how to get there and back with a 26-foot truck in the middle of the city, especially a city like DC, right? All these things. Why is there an upcharge for travel? Well, at 5 p.m., right? We can't park anywhere, so we have to park in a lot, which is going to cost us this amount, right? The traffic is super duper tight at this time, so I have to equate for that time or lose, you know. So I want to go through things that I don't know if people are thinking about, right? I hear so many times people say, hey, I have an LLC. What does that actually mean? Does that mean you have a business? Because sitting here, right now, you are a business because you are taxable, right? You have a tax ID, also known as a Social Security, that you can use for any W-9, right? Which means this: when I go to DJ, I have a DBA. That's doing business as, right? So I'm a sole proprietor with the DJing, and I have a DBA, DJ Hamp the Stampede. But that's me, but it's a cooler name than my name, Hampton Watson, right? So I use that name, DBA, I put it on my W-9, and then but my Social Security's still there, and that's when I get, you know, to get the 1099 from them at the end of the year, the accruals of how much they pay me isn't taxed, but it's allocated to my Social Security number, right? But I have a DBA, DJ Hampton Stampede, but it's still tied to Hampton Watson because it's my Social Security number up there, right? So right now you can go start a business. You can go wash cars, clean. You could do moving, and you can use your Social Security number, right, to start that business. You can create a DBA to have a cooler name than your name, right? And you can market that DBA, doing business as. So it's Joe Schmo doing business as, you know, Tank Moving or something like that, right? So just understand, you having an LLC, that what the LLC does is something different, but you can start a business right now, okay? But this shit is not going to go how you think it's going to go. And I would argue that the overwhelming majority of us are not built for this shit. Ain't no sick days. Ain't no vacation days. And I look at and think through a lot of the complaining that be happening, and I wonder, could you get out here and get it on your own for real? Let me show you how this. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and tell a friend. Hit that like button right now if you can. That helps the channel the most. Now, let me be clear, right? I'm not the overwhelming authority on this. I just know what I know based on my experiences, But talking with other entrepreneurs who've been outside for real, they can second this. Outlaw Frozen was good. Let me see. Let me read these couple of super chats. I got Robert of $10 says, when you are an entrepreneur, one of your biggest headaches is having employees or subcontractors who think like employees. You absolutely want people with an entrepreneurial mindset. I like this, Robert. I don't know if I agree, but I like it though. I think you need on your team thinkers, right? But you have to balance it. You need guys who are grunts and dogs, and that's positive, dog in the sense of they're going to go out and go get it. They'll be on time. They'll be at the job. They'll do the job. They go home. They're not overthinking it, figuring out different ways. Hey, if we do X, Y, and Z, maybe that too much of that can be a bad thing. But to your point, you want to foster an environment to where people's opinions matter and can be implemented instantly. So if my guys say something like, Hampton, this is better than this, we should do this, and I assess it, I said, let's try it. So we'll literally try it the next day. And if it works better than what we've done previously, we'll put it into the law right then. We're going to do it like this from now on. Right. So the whoever's in charge has to understand that you got to be open to suggestions. Right. But at the same time, people they can't undermine your authority. So I understand what Robert's saying. It could be slightly slippery, but I think the pros outweigh the cons in terms of his concept here. So I understand that. Matt P with the $5 says, okay, I've worked for a moving company that moved warehouses. So you do that type of moves too? Just gain more respect for you, bro. That's hard work. Yeah, man. We've helped people relocate warehouses, but it's a lot more commercial, meaning offices and things of that nature. Offices, office building. Like for instance, if anybody ever is in Houston, we moved the soccer team. So their corporate offices, they move like right around the corner. Oftentimes commercial moving is in very close proximity, right? Because people are not moving in West Bubble because they got so many people that come to work. I forget their damn name. It slips my mind right now, But we moved what is the soccer team called in Houston? Somebody will know. So let me just show you guys this slide, right? Let's say you have an idea, right? And you want to bring it to fruition. The key is marketing for sure, right? You got to get people that want to buy your product. What happens is markets are often oversaturated. To give you, what's up, Shiesty? To give you an example, in Washington, D.C., there are so many black lawyers. However, the fact that there are so many black lawyers, the market is oversaturated with lawyers. And so just to paint the picture of oversaturation is simply this. If you made Kool-Aid, right? If you made Kool-Aid, FOE was popping. Melvin was good. If you make Kool-Aid, there's a point where that water cannot consume any more sugar. In which case, the sugar that's not able to break down, no matter how much you stir it, because there's now too much sugar in that water, even though you can't necessarily see it. The water, if you can stir with a blender, it will not break it down because no more sugar can fit in that water. It settles at the bottom because that water is now oversaturated with sugar. It can't blend anymore. So a lot of times people are starting businesses, and businesses often fail in the first 5 to 7 years because market research isn't done largely, right? How many hairdressers are in a 5-block radius? What do you do that stands out? How do you differentiate yourself? If you discount your product, can you sustain that long term? Or will a discount to a product that is better than the rest allow people to get a trial on it for a subsidized rate, and then they'll also be willing to pay the retail rate once the sale goes away? Because if they're only using you because it's cheap, you have to reassess that. Yeah, Shiesty, I ain't gonna lie, I miss DC for sure. Right? So I just want people to understand, and I'm not really going down that road too much per se, but when you're starting something, right, do your market research, right? Do your due diligence. What is due diligence? Because people always say that the rule of 3 came from the federal government, but it's arbitrary. So what I mean by that is, I go to clients, they say, I'm going to get 3 estimates. I ask them why. Well, I want to do some comparison of pricing. I said, okay, do you know how many movers are in the Washington, D.C. area, right? And I used to use this mostly when I was up in D.C. They say, no, not really, about 1,500 movers. If you go to Yelp right now, you'll find 1,500 movers. Really? Wow. Indeed. If you're trying to do your due diligence, by definition, you have to get half of what exists. So that means you have to get, what's the math on that? 750 estimates to do your due diligence. You're going to call 2 more random movers, just how you called me. But I pay for my ads, so I was at the top, so you click the link. You're going to click 2 more, right? You're going to look at the reviews. You're going to look that we have 4.8 stars. People usually don't dig in, right? And you're going to get a call, right? And depending on how they conduct themselves, you may make a decision. The pricing is going to fluctuate, right? So if you go to Tim Bob's moving, right, and he pull up with a pickup truck, you know, or you can go to Atlas Van Lines, who have, you know, 153-foot trailers, right? They've been in business for 30 years. Have us where we have very high standards for ourselves. We fit the criteria. We're licensed and bonded, right? And I'm here right now. And if my price is palatable, because it won't be the cheapest, Tim Bob would be cheaper than me. Atlas may even be cheaper than me because they can wholesale you because they have so many trucks, so many drivers. They're going to put your stuff on their truck with 2 other customers. So of course they can charge you less because that trip is being paid for by 3 different clients. Right? So I said, but I'm here right now. My price will not be the cheapest, but it will be worth it. You know? So people just got to understand the things that are happening around them. You know, I sell what you would call a commodity. Yeah, Tim Bob will fuck your armoire up. I sell what you guys would call a commodity. What does that mean? Commodity is like toothpaste. You need it, you want it, right? But you're not partial necessarily, right? And I like to use the toothpaste analogy. We all have our favorite toothpaste, no question. But I doubt if you're at Giant, you're going to run the Target to get a toothpaste. You may very well just buy the next best toothpaste, right? And maybe buy a smaller one. So when it's out or when you make it back to the store, hopefully they have the one you prefer. Right. So when you're selling a commodity, there's going to be a bunch of competition. Right. But how you sell it, what you do, how you market it, how consistent you are is how you can separate yourself. But there's 1,000 movers. There's 100 different toothpaste. There's 1,000 hairdressers and estheticians. Salute to my brother J Hub. Right. So you got to be very mindful. What are you doing? What makes you special? It may be nothing. So you just got to fight for your market share. So if there's 100 out there, you have to know how much you can actually work. You know, does it make sense to go to the other side of the city, or should you focus on this side and look at different facets of business that you can get into? You know? Yep. And Melvin, that's a great point. Yep. Market saturation, what I was talking about, supply versus demand, you know? And one thing I don't do is in the summertime, you guys know, people move a whole lot during the summer. I don't raise my rate. Like I generally have a solid rate that I keep consistent because I think it's more integral, you know? Even when I DJ, like for weddings, they say party for 4 hours, it's a price. They motherfucker mention wedding, the price goes up 3 times. Now, I do raise it because how important the event is, and I may even use different equipment, plus they ask you to do a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? So because of that, the cost is different because the service changes, you know? but I don't hike it up astronomically because they say wedding. You know, we both understand the importance, so I'm gonna get paid based on my worth, right? But I just tend not to do things like that. I like to be consistent because referrals matter in the things that I do. Real estate sucks, but it's an asset. Right now, my wife and I manage the properties that we have, and every day something happens, I'll be wanting to get a property management company, and it may be worth paying that 10%. You know? But yeah, man, that's what it's transparent pricing. That's good, Aaron. Right? So let's just look at this, you know, and you guys, I'm looking at what you guys saying. If you disagree, which I don't think so far, let's talk through it, man, because I think this is uberly important, you know. And will this be the action-packed arguing shit? Nah, but I think it'd be dope. You know, I think we as people, we come together every day. I see you guys, you know, 3 or 4 days a week, and I think we should talk about everything together so we can learn. You know, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. Hit that like button right now if you can. That helps the channel the most. This is the DBA and the LLC. So I went through the DBA, right? Essentially, it's a cooler name that you can operate under, but it's still attached to your specific social security number, right? So if anything happens while you're providing a service under your DBA, that's still you directly. So all your personal assets can be included and assessed if you were to get sued. Uncut, what's popping? You call me Hampy, golly, right? You have unlimited liability when you're doing business as a sole proprietor, which is Hampton Watson Moving or DBA, DJ Hampton Stampede Moving, right? But I put it as a doing business as. My liability to what happens while providing that service is unlimited. So if I get sued, now small claims court, for the most part, I think the threshold is 5,000. I think there's other states that have a max of 10,000 in small claims court. They can pursue me and say, hey, I need that car because I won the lawsuit. I need that car. That car is worth $8,000. Give me that car. And a judge can make that decision, right? You are not protected by anything. Okay. But people often get confused. They be like, I got an LLC. But I'm like, that means nothing except for you're mitigating risk of nothing, right? You had a business before because you can do business under your social security number. So now when you got your the limited liability company, right? Limited liability company, right? You can have a single member LLC, which means you are the owner. And what it does is simply separate the business assets from your personal assets. It is a separate entity. It has its own social security number or tax ID or EIN, right? But I think that's layman terms. It has its own social security number, the LLC. So when Hulk Movers gets sued and I'm the owner, they're suing Hulk Movers, right? What people don't do, Amani, what's up? What people don't do a good job of is separating their monies, right? So they'll have the bank account for the business and they'll just spend directly from that business. They go on the subway, they paying they mortgage with it right out of that account. You have to make sure that you pay yourself so that they can see that the business money is not your direct, like you're using it just like as your funds. Because if they can prove that you just buying Subway, McDonald's, paying your rent, paying your electricity bill directly from your business account, they're going to say there is no differentiation between the business and the person because you're just using it willy-nilly. So you have to pay yourself. And I tell you what, we just what really helps us now is Zelle. All you have to do is Zelle yourself. Yep, co-mingling, right? Perfect. Thank you, Jay Strada. Zelle. Just Zelle yourself. Just Zelle yourself. That's it. Just Zelle yourself every month. You know, put 30% to the side every month just for taxes, right? And that's a high rate, 30%, but that's what I try to do as best I can, you know? Yeah, I mean, I would say Zelle. Just Zelle yourself. So, you know, You got your business account. I use Bank of America, and I Zelle, Capital One. Yep. And Zelle is perfectly admissible. So if you have a bunch of Zelles consistently, you're good. It shows that you're paying yourself. So it's easy, bro. I swear. Zelle made it so much easier, because then you had to transfer funds and do ACHs. Now Zelle, boom, done. Yeah. Strada, that's good. I wasn't gonna do too much into taxes, but I will say 30% is what I try to set aside for all my taxes. I recommend there's an account called Word, Lee. Good. We're proud of you. That's just the very, very first step, Lee. Getting the LLC. Make sure you get your tax ID or your EIN. You get that directly from the federal government website. It attaches to that LLC. Good to go. All right. Damn, what was I saying? Oh, just quickly on the taxes. Yeah, like I said, I recommend 30%. If you guys, so like Lee, as an example, Lily, if you guys heard of Lily, it's an online bank. Matt actually showed me SoFi. In terms of investment, that's something different. But Lily account, it does a lot of that for you. When you have expenses, you can say this is business, this is personal, this is business, this is personal, right? You literally just slide it and it tells you like what your tax savings will be. But also it has an emergency bucket that's automatic, and it has a taxation bucket that's automatic. Yeah, and it's free. So when you'll set the taxation number, so I set mine at 30%, and when you set it, you forget it. So they pull that money out and put it in a savings account for all intents and purposes, right? So it can accrue interest, but also that 30% is gone and you never see it. So that's what I recommend. I do it like that, and I think there's other things. I have different IRA and stuff, but that's we could talk about that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so just remember your LLC. Right? It separates you from the business. It limits your liability if things go awry. Right? Also, businesses have different write-offs and things of that nature. But if you do have a sole proprietorship right now, and you have people wanting you to bake cakes for them, and you're accruing money, you need to track it. QuickBooks, I forget the QuickBooks. Is self-employed. You can do all that shit. QuickBooks self-employed. You could do all of it. Track that money, man. And after a certain threshold, you don't even get like it's minuscule, But track your money. Because if you do have something legitimate, you qualify for write-offs too, right? There's a certain amount of square footage in your house that you can use as a tax write-off, because that's your personal office the business. My verbiage is messed up, I apologize, right? But that's your home office. Yep, that's your home office. So you can still do it as a sole proprietor, no question. No question. Okay. But just remember, if you fuck something up, if you bake that cake and that nigga gets salmonella poisoning, and it's Cali Bev, you baking cakes for people, they could come get you. With the LLC, there's a separation. Now, the wall can be breached, right? Like commingling and things of that nature. The wall can be breached, but it's difficult. I got sued one time. I had a moving company in DC, Hulk Movers and Junk Hauling, right? My guys went. The guy didn't tell us his basement flooded, so we're moving his stuff. He got a one of them nice ass reclining chairs, and we like, yo, this shit ain't moving. It's falling apart. Stuff falling apart. We go through the glass door. It wouldn't come off. I'm like, hold on. I took off 1 million glass doors. The sliding glass door, it wouldn't come off. So we had to pull it through. And I told him, hey, we're going to have to muscle this, but it may be slightly compromised. But the shit was messed up. I get served paperwork saying we broke this and that and so on and etc. And we had the liability waiver signed and everything. But he used the fact that we didn't take off the sliding glass door. And I'm like, Judge, it would not come off. We discussed that this is not coming off. I have to pull it through this door to get it out. And it may be compromised, right? And the judge was kind of nonchalant with it, and so he sided with them. So we lost. So then when we had to go and say, well, where are the funds? What are the funds, et cetera, et cetera? I was winding that down. I was going to work actually for a very, very large company. So the assets were at minimum at that point. I had sold the truck and things of that nature already because I did this move as a favor. And so, well, why can't we get, because I had, I think I had $6 left and a few thousand in the bank, right? To pay for the damages, but he got 10% of what his judgment was because the business only had the assets it had. You know what I mean?
Shit like that.
So, and I wasn't commingling and things of that nature, but the LLC is uberly important. It gives you a chance, right? And it's legit, Yep, 100%, man. So that's just, I wanted to just talk through that. I'm sure you guys probably knew, what's up, Quincy? So it's good. 501(c) is a little bit different. I think we probably could save that for another day. But I just want to keep walking down this road. So when we're talking about things like revenue, people get so caught up on revenue. What's up, Sweet B? Revenue. That's all I hear. And I think people are thinking revenue is something that it is not. Oftentimes when you're talking to people and they get the bragging, they talking about revenue, right? They're talking about revenue quite often. Let me share this tab. Hold on, let me read the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and tell a friend. Hit that like button right now if you can. That helps the channel the most. Let me see. I get mad already? Yeah, I got mad. Rainbow was popping, my brother, with the 10 ounces. I used to do office as industrial, electronics, household, and military, sales, customer service, and dispatch. I was a beast. Recruiters used to blow my phone up. Left due to stress. Yeah, 100%. Especially because you have different facets. Military is so much different, especially with overseas shipping and things of that nature. And customer service and dispatch is constant. Dispatch, you there at 6 a.m. Customers calling all day and sales. That's a lot, Rainbow. Salute to you. You definitely, that's instant burnout, though. Instant burnout. And you got to be very careful of that. And that's why I'm saying entrepreneurship is not for everybody. And when you take roles like this is too much on one person. It's too many hats for them to do their absolute best. You can beast it out, but for how long? And I think employers just try to save in money as opposed to investing in different employees to do different things to get max results. So salute to you though. Vet was popping with the tons. Great information, folks, for sure. Show your appreciation by donating to Hamp. Appreciate you, bro. This is some good information in game, especially if you want to run a successful business or decide if it's for you. Exactly. Right. My title is provocative, obviously on purpose. Right. But to be built for it, man, it takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and I'm good. I'm glad, it's intimate in here in terms of how many people, but I think everybody in here wants to be, revenue is what people get so focused on, man. So I have the slide up, just so you guys can read it and look at it. But if I go and sell a move job right now, right? Let's say I sell it for $5,000. Enos was popping. Let's say I sell that job for $5,000. People will be like, yo, I made $5,000 today. You hear that, and that's why you see businesses closing. Yeah, we brought in 10,000 in sales this month. Right? So that they're thinking, because they have 10,000 cash, that they made some money. But how much did it cost you to sell that for 5,000? It costs you money to sell that product for $5,000. Right? So if I sell a job for $5,000, right? Let's say that's 40 hours worth of moving services. On average, I pay my guys anywhere between $20 and $25 an hour. So let's say 23, right? Where's my phone? So, and I'm giving you guys just simple stuff, right? So the number is $5,000. Can somebody describe this in the chat? So the number is $5,000, right? Let's say I have 40 hours for 5 guys, and they're paid at $23 an hour. So let's say 23 times the 5 guys, right, equals $115 an hour, right? 23 times 5, $115 an hour. Let's say they do 40 hours worth of moving times 40. It wouldn't be that, right? But let's say it just was. I sold it for $5,000. I have to pay 5 guys, right, at $23 an hour for 40 hours worth of work, right? And the numbers are trash. Don't get me. This is not how it actually goes, right? But people be like, yeah, I made $5,000, but once I pay my guys, I'm left with $400. But people often do this to themselves. They don't think about the supplies as much as they need to, right? You'll run to the store, like we'll run to the store and get a shrink wrap. Well, you have to deduct that, right? That has to come out of my revenue. Revenue is just the sales. I have to assess my costs. If I want to brag, I need to be talking about profits, right? Profits is once you deduct all your expenses and your overhead costs. So the one thing that people need to get into and understand before they start a business is their cost of goods sold. You can substitute the word goods with services, right? What is your cost of goods sold to produce something? Right? Cost of goods sold. Here's the generic formula. Inventory plus purchases minus ending inventory equals cost of goods sold. But here's what goes into this, right? Like Aaron was just saying. Can you guys help me? Put in the chat what goes into this. Yeah. Sharilla, that's good. Yep. I think it goes right here too. So insurance, right? We can't move people without insurance. Trucks. You guys can add labor costs, supplies, fuel, right? Equipment, right? You know, overhead, and people do a bad job with overhead. So that's your building. You know what I mean? You got utilities, you have rent, you know, for wherever you do a business out of, and people don't do a good job of breaking that down to make sure they equate for that in their rate. Right? So those overhead costs are just constant. Those are constant costs. Supplies, when you would allocate overhead is like rent, utilities, right? That's overhead. Expenses that you have on a consistent basis monthly will be like supplies. That'll fluctuate a bit. You know? Yeah, Jerome. Right? So you have to break that down. So you do it like this. Let's say, money for, right, J-Hub? That shit. Think about this. Let's say you have $1,000, right? You have $1,000 in utilities, right? But and this is what happens to a lot of clubs. They think they making money on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, but they got to pay the utilities for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, right? So this part. So let's say your utilities are $1,000. So $1,000, right? You got $1,000 utilities. Do the math. Just do it. This is simple. This is a day how I do it, right? Divided by 30. It's $33 a day, right? But how many days a week are we actually moving? Right? So let's say we move people, I would say, let's say 22 days out of the month. I can't do my math predicated off of 30 days anymore because I'm not making money 30 days out of the month. So I would do that $1,000 divided by 22 days. Now my cost per day is actually $45.50. You see what I'm saying? So you have to make sure you're able to cover that cost on the days where you go out to work. Right. And I'm talking about more so services, you know. So when you're building your rate, you have to consider this. You have to consider all these things. Right. The one thing I demand, and this is a demand from me to you guys, and I have to do a better job of it myself. You know, yeah, really, we almost there. 1,200 away from 20K. Right. The one thing I demand from you guys is to make sure that you equate for your time. Right. So we'll do, let's say we're building a rate. Right. I'm going to charge $60 an hour. Why? Okay. I got to cover my guys. That's $20. Okay. So I'm already down to 40. I'm covering my supplies that I reuse. So I may do $5, let's just say, for simple math. Okay. So I'm down to $35 going into my pocket. Okay. And this is hourly though, right? So I have a lot of guys working at once. You know, I may do $5 for the utilities times 4 guys. I should be able to cover it times however many hours. Right. And then I got to make sure I equate for my time. Right. So how much does it cost for me to get you on my books? If I'm taking 10 minutes with you, how much is my time every 6 minutes? That's how the lawyers do it. They charge you every 6 minutes. So you come up with a rate for yourself that covers your cost and your time. Right? You add all of that up. That's your cost. Then you put your rate on top of that. Do the market research. What are people charging? Are you differentiating? If so, can you add $2 or $3 more? Right? So I just want you guys to understand, equate for your costs, right? And then build the rate around it, right? So I actually said it backwards. What is it going to cost for me to do this business, to sell this good, right? And then you build your rate around it. Now, the rate itself, if you guys remember, we were on the stream and I was looking at the hot dog vendor and I just quickly Googled and it said they can make a 75% margin. I said that's like selling dope, because the things that are sold at above 50% margin, and I'll explain that. I know you guys know what it is, but I'll explain it. Is things like liquor. So this is what this means. If I got $100, right? All my expenses add up to $80. I walk away with 20. My margin is 20%. 20% isn't actually terrible. That's the thing. 20% margin, it's not good. It's not great, but it's not bad. Like a 20% margin is it should be better, but I'm not gonna be like, damn, you fucking up. I'm gonna say, well, can we find any cost saves for ourselves to make a better margin? So it's how much money I make off of every sale, and it's percentages. So I use 100 because it's simple for us. So if it costs me 80 to produce that, I got 20 left over as profit where I don't owe nobody that money. I can keep it. That's 20%. It's right. 30% margin, good, very good. 30% margin is where you want to be, right? 30% margin is where you want to be. If you can provide services, like for instance, I'm just using the moving, giving a service to people, because that's the thing. That's what a lot of us tend to do. We hang TVs. The margin on hanging TVs for us is very, very high. So if I go to hang and if I do it myself, right, the margin increases because now I don't have labor costs. And it takes me 30 minutes, let's say, to hang a, maybe 15 minutes, but let's say 30 minutes to hang a TV for $200. And all I'm doing is using my tools that I already have that pay for themselves. And the customer buys the mount, screws, and everything. I show up with my bag of tools, hang the TV, and be gone. The margin on that service, super high, because the overhead, or excuse me, the expenses to provide that service are rather low when I do it myself. You know what I mean? So that's important, right? But you want to focus on your margin. That's a constant thing. Your margin is you should be constantly be assessing it. My moving company, our margin is 58%. I streamline everything. I use everything. How I bill it, all matters. You know, how we do things. You know, not nickel and diamond, but having a rate that covers us well. And I do binding estimates. I do not to exceed pricing, right? Which is this. If I say it's going to take 9 hours and it takes 10, I pay for the extra hour. Right? Now, in my head, I know it's going to take 7, right? I'm pretty good at estimating. So I know it's going to take 7, but I let them know, hey, I got it at 9 because I want to make sure you have an expectation. If it goes anywhere past 9, I'll pay for it. So the customer like, really? Wow, yeah, but I know it's probably a 7-hour job. So you see what I just did for my margins? I got 2 hours free because my guys, I have them scheduled, hey, it's 7 hours. If you do it in 6 hours, you still get paid the 7. Right? So you see how I'm putting it on both ends. I'm saying, hey guys, get it done, you still get paid the 7 hours. Client, I put a buffer in because I want to make sure that we both have an expectation. So it goes 10 hours, I'll pay for that hour. So now everybody has an expectation. Everybody's happy. The guys, me, and and the client. You see what I'm saying? And now my guys be like, hey, Hamp, this piano is heavy as a mother, you know? I still have those 2 hours where I'll be like, all right, I'll give you guys an extra 30 minutes. But generally speaking, they be pushing. Freezy was popping because they want to make more money. And my guys, the same thing. They have it in their head to where I get paid 20 an hour, right? But if I get it done, if Hampton estimates 8 hours and I do it in 4 hours, my pay rate goes from what? 20 to 40 hours an hour. You see? So they're thinking entrepreneurially, to Robert's earlier point. Damn, I can make $40 an hour if I bust my ass because I still get paid that money. Right? They have accountability. Like if they break shit and I know and they know it could have been avoided, we split the cost. Like I'll pay half, they'll pay half. You know? So yeah, man. So protect your margins every single day. Protect your margins. Pay your people. Pay your people. Your people are the brand. Pay the people. Don't nickel and dime. The moving companies around me pay anywhere from 15 to 18. I start at 20. And I demand what I demand because I start at 20. Right? So I'm $2 ahead of my competition. I do shit like one of my guys, he was getting his anniversary. And he's like, damn, man, we going out on Monday. I know we get paid on Wednesday, you know. So I didn't put it out there, but I just pay him via Zelle so he get it right then. He's like, yo, hey, you sent me yeah, I know you're going out with your wife and shit. I know the other week was slow, so it might be tight. You know, and that type of stuff, they like it's that rapport is forever, you know. So as an entrepreneur, you can do things like that. Be careful. You give people an inch, they take a mile, right? Be careful, you know. But doing those things, right, it helps. It certainly helps. But protect your margin, man. Protect your margin. So the margin is percentages, right? So this is what you do. If you're selling a product for $10, if you're selling a product for $100, your goal, I would say if you guys set a goal for yourself, 40% margin is fucking awesome. awesome. But you notice, look, you're spending more money technically than what you're actually bringing in, because you're bringing in 40% of 100, right? Just to do simple math. That's how business entrepreneurship works. 40% is a great fucking margin. If you can get that and maintain it, maintain it. Like I said, I've been doing this, right? When I first started, my margin was not 58%. I sold that company, went to Capital One, worked for them for, doing relocation all over the country for them, right? So it was not 40, it was not 58%. It was 30%, maybe 28%. My fees were too low, how I was doing it, just working through it, even though I was working every single job myself. In 2016, we did 200 jobs over the summer in DC. And I worked damn near every one, So that shit is not easy. Jer, my bad. I didn't see the question. Hold on, let me scroll up. Would another business, it's not super, but I'm going to read it. Would another business that could be effectively streamlined, barbers who can run their own operations from their residency? Yes. No. No, not really. You would, Mel, not directly. But the more money that you simply make, so the higher your margin means you're keeping more money. So if shit hits the fan, you'll have money for downtime. You'll have money for unexpected expenses. So by proxy, I say protecting the margin overall simply adds to your profits. And the reason why I like to talk margin is because margin is a constant everyday thing, because supplies fluctuate so much, right? So you need to be shopping suppliers all the time. Like the barbershops, like that was brought up, that Jer brought up as an example. So my barber, it would be the same little Puerto Rican guy coming to barbershop, and he, sells all that, the hair supply, like for them. And whatever he was selling it for, they were buying it for. I'm like, have you ever went to one of the 100 beauty supply stores around here and see what the costs are? But because the guy comes in, they pay for the convenience, right? But people sneeze at $3, $4, $5, but you wouldn't sneeze at it if you did your math, right? So let's say they buy a bottle a week, even just a bottle a week, and it's probably more than that. I'm being generous. Let's say a couple bottles a week, $10 times 52, right? That's $520. What if you can save that? Think of things in lump sum so you give a shit. It's all good, Jer, right? So think of things in big numbers so you give a shit. Don't just go and stop by the gas station to get water, right? Like, let's say you provide a service and you keep free water every time. Like, how you get like, what's the thing when you get your feet done? Right? And they give you like water or wine and shit like that. Don't go to 7-Eleven to get that water, because it's $6.99 for 24, right? Go to Costco to get the water, because it's, what is it, $6.99 for 50, right? You protect your margins because supplies matter every single day. Always be shopping, always be looking. And I fall victim to it. My guys will be at U-Haul and they'll be like, oh, we don't got no shrink wrap. I got a contract at the office or the moving supply company, but I'm like, go ahead and run in the U-Haul and pay 50% more than what we would have paid, because I'm being lazy because y'all getting on my nerves. But you do that every day, you eating at your margins, and your margins dictate your profits. So your revenues will be beautiful, but if your margin is only 20%, so when you use that $5,000 number, right? 5,000, right? And then 20% of that, you make $1,000. So your revenue is 5,000, but your actual profit was 1,000 because your margin's only 20%. And so that job, what can it pay for? Just my overhead costs. You know? Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and tell a friend. Hit that like button right now if you can. That helps the channel the most. Let me read that. I think it was so solid. So solid with the 2000 security guard company, Hamp. Thoughts, regulations for things like that. One of my buddies started a very large one, and in DC, there's a luxury of government contracting, and so he was able to secure the government contract for all the schools, all the charter schools in the district. But compliance is key. Obviously, if you add armed guards to the mix, right, there's a whole lot more exposure to the company, right? So you most certainly need a limited liability for a security company. You know, people have to be, you can't just hire anyone. It looks like anybody could just sit there at the desk for 8 hours until it's time not to sit there. With things like that, you only needed to go bad once. You know, you only needed to go bad once. So you need a liability. You need to train people. You need to trust but verify. If you have armed guards, remember your exposure, right? So be very, very careful. That is going to be something that will not be passive. You will have to be heavily involved because people will F you over for sure. And they don't even do it maliciously. They just don't know no better. People are dumb, especially in times of havoc. So just be very careful with that, you know. But compliance is key there too. Compliance is very important, you know. Even when Jer was saying with the barbershop, I think the separation is worth sacrificing a portion of those profits, right? But again, look at it based on percentages. It's better that way. So if I get a shop, which brings my margin from 50% to 40%, but we know making 40% on your business is good. I think you also keep a level of professionalism. You separate it. You know what 50. You know what Biggie told us, right? Never sell crack where you rest at. Even if a nigga want an ounce, tell him bounce. Right? Because people in and out your house like that, that's a different ball game. And unfortunately, in this society, you never know. Right? You never know. So I would be careful with that, right? Because we get comfortable. And unfortunately, history has showed us it be a man that'll do you. Right? And let's just use the stuff that we're familiar with. Juice, New Jack City, Paid in Full, The Wire, imitations of life, man. So I would be careful. I would get a little studio, and people have gotten that. Have you guys seen that? The studio where people will go and there's different booths, and you got your little room. Brutus, yep. You got your little room, and you make it your own. And that is just one chair in there. You make it how you want, and do it like that. I think that's worth the cost, right? Because you want the benefits to outweigh the cost. So if it's worth paying for because it's beneficial, do it. To make money, you got to spend it, period. Right? To make money, you have to spend it. But the things you can control it. But don't be cheap. Yep. Do not be cheap. It's not worth it. I got the best dollies, the best hand trucks. You know what I mean? Like I use, because that shit is that's your money maker. That's your money maker. So buy good clippers, get something. And then when you have people coming, get a place that's safe, that the aesthetics make sense. Don't just get the cheapest booth, right? Because who the hell gonna want to come there? Yep, Goodfellas, Sopranos is always your man, So I think that's key for sure. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and tell a friend. Hit that like button right now if you can. That helps the channel the most. Damn, man. The profit and loss, right? It's just a comparison, right? The money you bring in versus the everything that's going out, right? Don't look at loss as negative per se, but it costs to do business, right? Again, it's the cost of doing business. The profit and loss will have a lot of things that you may not look at every day, like let's say, for instance, your insurance and such. And oftentimes insurance automatically renews, and it'll be $100 more per month, $50 more, but it's just rolling, So you want to make sure you assess things, when it's time to assess them. Once you lock in, you lock in, For the business, I'm less likely to put things on automatic payment because, again, I want to make sure I'm monitoring my margin fluctuation, right? So I'm less likely to put things on automatic payment for business. At home, I do, right? Because it is what it is. But at the business, at the end of the month, if I'm saying, wait a minute, Xfinity is $60, T-Mobile's new internet is $40, and it can do the job, I'm switching. You know what I'm saying? So if I do an automatic payment, now I'm not assessing all my expenses, my overhead, etc. So, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and tell a friend. Hit that like button right now if you can. That helps the channel the most. And I knew that this live would be a little bit skinnier, but I wanted to do it because I think that is cool. I really think that is cool. These things I learned through pain, man. But when I say it in hyperbole, you are not built to be an entrepreneur. I'm being mean, in terms of the title, but I'm not taking it back either. Like, this shit is not a game. You literally eat what you kill, right? Every piece of money, every piece of money that comes in, you got to assess it from YouTube, to the moving company, to the DJing. Like, if I don't work because this stuff is not passive, then we don't eat. Now we have some real estate, but even that, Airbnb, people complaining, and real estate, when people say they're going to get into it, the sentiment is that you need 5 properties to be able to live off having real estate, because the margin on real estate is low. Right? It's pretty low when you get homes, especially with the interest rate, in places that people are willing to rent. You hit good months for sure, but generally speaking, a mortgage, like, just take the mortgage. The mortgage will be, let's say, $2,000, right? You probably make 1,000. Not terrible, but with all the work that goes into it, because people forget about their time and effort and the headache, you need 3 or 4 of those. You see what I'm saying? Because you're taking away 1,000 every month. Let's say you're gonna need 4 or 5 houses to really start getting this money that you can really live off of. You know what I'm saying? So just take that. Just be cognizant of that. Just be cognizant. You're gonna need 5 houses before you get to money you can kind of live off. You may hit a gym, but generally speaking, people's expenses average about $5,000-6,000 a month. Jay Strada, you might gotta hit the link so I can understand more. Did I drop the link? Alicia, what's popping? Tell a friend, and we out.